Hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Hope you're all good. Okay. Anatomy. Let's have a look at it while we draw this guy. We've drawn him before, quite recently. He's just a great example of exposed anatomy, of things that are just really easy to see. So he's really a really useful model in that respect. So let's let's draw. Okay. Let me switch cameras. Sorry. I should say I'm a little bit sleep deprived and I'm a little scatterbrained today, so I'm not sure how long I'll be able to go for before I crash. Let's see. But if I do get to that point, I am going to bail, because what I don't want to do is just, you know, start just drawing on autopilot. Because this model requires us to have our wet spouters. Let's start with a 10. 10, 12. Let's just kind of get the arm warmed up. Find our center line. Inguinal ligament coming down this way. Iliac crest going up this way. Something like that. Let's find the arch of our rib cage. No, that's going to be sitting about here. Give or take. We'll do this for now. Super Conte Calf Monday. Oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that. We'll talk about legs. Actually, this clavicle is going up a little because this arm is coming across like so. Elbows about here, and this arm doing something like that. Yeah, actually, when I did pick this model, there was that thought about and focusing somewhat on anatomy today. All right, let's see. So we know pectoral muscles are sitting just above the arch of the rib cage, right? Right around here. Kind of coming this way. And this way, something like that. Oblique is going to be sitting on here. You can really kind of get a sense of that mass of the oblique sitting in there, that region. Same thing on this side, although obviously on this side it's extended because of the stretch, in the extension in the torso here. Navel will be sitting right around here. We got this lovely kind of shadow coming off and down through the abdominals right in here. Something I want to think about as we move more into the drawing. So just make a quick note of it there just to remind myself. You really kind of get that sense of the abdominal coming across. Okay, let's find some leg action. This leg, mass of this leg is coming towards us. We've got that very pronounced tensor fasciae latae sitting there. Coming down, our knee is going to be about here. Tensor fasciae latae. And this leg is very, very mildly slightly going away from us. So I don't want to overdo that, but I do want to be mindful that these two are working in two different directions. Okay. Got our latissimus sitting in here. Triceps going to be sitting there, coming up to the elbow, which is facing us. I'm already at 5 minutes, so I need to motor here. Need to be thinking in those terms. Okay, so got this kind of thing going on with the deltoid and the shoulder. Okay. All right, I'm going to get into this now, find some ideas, hopefully. Oblique rib cage coming up, meeting up with the latissimus here, and the deltoid sitting in there. What's going on this side? So I'm going to pull in from where my oblique was originally there to about there, try and give him a slightly thinner waist. It will help accentuate all of that kind of anatomy, the width of the shoulders and that latissimus coming up this way. All right, pectorals. See now, pectoral coming up this way. I am not going to get the whole drawing done in the time permitted, but I'm not too fussed. I'll do what I can get done in the time we have, and then I'll move on. Bicep sitting in there, and this forearm. Sitting in there. Serratus sitting in here. tracer coming in here. Try doing that. Faciality. Same on this side, sitting about there. Yeah. Touch about there. Just go for another minute or two. Oh boy, looks like a living construction. Yeah, look, he's, what can you say? He really is just, it's just very, very clear on what's going on anatomically, you know? It's like you've really got, you know, sometimes you're working with a model and it's like, sometimes you're like, what's actually happening? Here, though, it's really, really clear what's going on anatomically. Although not always the easiest, you know. Sometimes a soft model can be easier. This is, in some ways, can be quite unforgiving because, you know, it's all right there. Jenny says, Richard, I think you're a marvelous artist. Thank you so much. I'd love to become a member and see the ref, but all I have is an iPad. How can I join? If you go to, I don't know if this will help because I know it's been different for different people, Jenny, but there is a link in the description. Try clicking that link and see if that will bring you to the join page, because I believe some people had success with that on iPads. If that doesn't work, I don't know if you have any access to a laptop or a desktop, even temporarily, though you could join on, because then you'll have access. So that's the other alternative. Use Chrome as a browser. There you go. Yeah, there you go, Margot. Thank you. Margot's been there, done that. She knows what's up. All right, let's move to the second pose. Other than grinding out figure after figure, asks Emmy, what are other ways to practice that are beneficial? Tracing, sculpting, throwing pencils? Definitely not tracing. I think tracing is, it's a good question, and I don't want to belabor the point because I know you're just kind of bringing it up as an option, but I do think it's a good opportunity to mention how detrimental tracing can actually be. Especially if you're working digitally and there's the very strong temptation to put the reference on a layer and to draw over it. I don't believe that that's a very good way to develop any sense of measurement or to actually understand what it is that you're looking at, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to learn how to kind of see sculpturally, to see three-dimensionally. And if you start tracing, then what you're doing is you're just copying a series of shapes. And you're kind of, if anything, you're going to revert back to just being shape aware and not volume aware. Grinding out figure out after figure is honestly probably you're going to get more mileage out of that than just about anything else. I do think to change up the times, you know, short poses, longer poses is a really good idea. To change the type of model you're drawing is a really good idea. To always be mindful of the process. I'm sure you've seen me draw a lot now, Emmy, and you'll notice I use the same, essentially, unless we're dealing with heavily foreshortened poses, I'm using the same process every time. That way, the process is repeatable and results are theoretically repeatable, right? Do anatomy studies. To take an image out of an anatomy book and to do a master copy of that, I think is beneficial. Personally, I'm not a big fan of, you know, the academic method of copying and gridding and all of that type of thing. To me, it's not, at least for me, it's not a useful endeavor. But yeah, I think ultimately we're trying to train ourselves to be able to see in a particular way, and that's going to come through repetition ultimately. But look at anatomy books, look at books, do studies. Like there's a lot of different ways that, you know, because if you get bored of just figure drawing, there's plenty of other kind of things that you can be doing to develop your skills. I've said this more than once on this stream. I think there's great value, especially as a beginning artist, let's say, is to draw, get used to and get good at kind of drawing a series of volumes, a series of three-dimensional volumes sitting on a two-dimensional space, right? Something like to get the sense of things moving in space. You know, just even like little exercises like this are so useful. And then can you light them? You know, like things like that. Because this is how I'm building up the figure many times, at least in my mind's eye. You know, I'm thinking about, okay, what is the large, simplified shape for that? This might look like a very easy exercise, but you'd be surprised at actually how tricky this can be. But it trains the mind to be thinking three-dimensionally, and it helps us develop. Sculpting would be a very good tool for developing your sense of draw, for becoming a better drawer. So yeah, I think anything that's forcing you to think three-dimensionally is going to have value, you know? We just don't want to be tracing shapes. You cracked your pencil on his thigh. Nice. Constantaneous says, as an artist, I tried tracing and it felt cheap. I'd rather draw referencing an image. Yeah, I appreciate that sentiment, Constantaneous. Absolutely. Not even to just measure the figure. I don't believe that there's value to it, because what do you... Sarcola Man asks, not even to just measure the figure. Here's the thing. What do you measure? How are you measuring anything? By tracing. You know, and if you're going to say, well, you know, you trace over it and then you can kind of put lines out and see the different proportions to things, I would argue that your time is just better spent drawing out the figure, getting in the repetition, because people often ask me, like, about proportion, for example. How do you get proportion right? And you can talk about the subdivisions and the major landmarks and their relative distance from each other, but as we know, in the real world and in practicality and in practice, that form of measurement can go out the window pretty damn fast. In my opinion, repetition, to draw something, and I'm hyperbole here, but let's say to draw something 10,000 times, guess what? By the 10,000th time, you will, just through repetition of looking at your drawing and going, okay, he looks too tall there, next time, okay, now he looks a little bit short, next time, next time, next time, next time. You will develop a sense over time on what the right proportion is, right? Because when we start off a drawing, I'm just going to start the next pose, by the way. You know, when we start a drawing using this method, we are very much working with simple shapes. So even if you've got that down as a concept, you could ask yourself, yeah, but how do you know, even though you're working with simple shapes, that this is going to be where, like, you know, the bottom of the gluteus is, for example, and this is the top of the shoulders? What is that measurement, or what is that distance between here and here? And the reality is, it's come through repetition. It's come just through doing it over and over and making mistakes hundreds of times and going, okay, that doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Okay, I think I made it. I think I made the torso too long, or the upper torso too long. Try it again. Maybe it's a little closer this time. Okay, so now I've got confirmation bias that this is working in more correctly than it was, even if it's still not quite there. And so on and so forth. You know, it's like a lot of the time, these things just come down to, you just got to put in the mileage. But here's the thing, I do think that there's a lot to be said for structured practice, not mindlessly drawing and saying, well, I've got to get in my 10,000 bad drawings, or I've got to get my 10,000 bad drawings out of the way. Yeah, but it's going to take a lot more than 10,000 if there's not a mindful, thoughtful process for each one of those drawings. So don't go for quantity over quality, all right? For the iPad question, I would use pure reference app. Okay. Noah says, my vocab has vastly increased since I began watching you. Thank you. That's great. Thank you, Noah. Appreciate it. As soon as you measure anything, the drawing is dead, and that's in quotations. I'm taking that to the grave, so it better be true. Now, be very careful, Volvo. I didn't say, you're putting words in my mouth, especially if you're going to take them to the grave. Please be mindful of what words you take to the grave. I didn't say as soon as you measure anything, the drawing is dead. There's a place for measurement. There's a place for understanding the relative distance and the relative space between two objects, right? It's how you measure that matters. You absolutely should be measuring. You just got to be really careful on how you approach measurement. And it's not, in my opinion, it's not through all that we just discussed. So I hope that makes sense. I spy a butterfly motif. You certainly do, Margot. Let's put that sucker in. Okay, so let's find sacrum. Actually, it's a little higher. Sacrum's about here. Iliac crest. Coming up this way and this way. And let's... Oh yeah, look at that. The butterfly. And he says, I've been drawing freehand, then comparing to the original, then doing a tracing of the original, and starting over with a new freehand. I feel like I notice more detail in the second drawing. Okay, I would say just lose the tracing stage. Draw freehand and compared to the original, but here's the thing also. When you're comparing to the original, ask yourself what it is that you're comparing. Because I know that you're looking for a certain sense of accuracy or whatever, but this is why I get reluctant to post tutorials where the reference is on screen, honestly, because the reality is people immediately go, oh, well, you didn't draw it just exactly like the drawing. Yeah, I know, it's not my intention. It's not really what I'm trying to do here. My teacher said something beautiful, my figure drawing teacher, that always stuck with me, which is, and I've said it, I've used it myself as a quote, but the model is there to start a conversation with yourself and the drawing board, right? That's what the model is there to do. If we're trying to make perfect copies of something, well, it's an exercise in futility. And also I would say, well, what's the point, right? I think there's better ways for us to spend our time. No one's looking at your drawing with the reference in front of them saying, yeah, but like you didn't draw it right. Okay? The reference, the model is there to start a conversation. It's not the final word. And I think that that's really, really important to remember. It also frees us up beautifully, right? Like, what's the point of doing an exact copy of anything? Then we might as well use a camera. We also want the opportunity, hopefully, to bring ourselves to the image, to change and adjust what needs to be adjusted. You might decide, well, actually, you know what? I don't like the way that this hand is coming in this way. The perspective feels wrong. I'm going to actually pull his arm out like this, right? Now, for me, maybe that reads better as an image. And also, hopefully, I'm developing a skill set that allows me to make a change like that, and I've got enough ideas stored up where I can execute that and make it look like it's part of the drawing, right? But you know, there might be, and once again, I've used this one to death, but often you'll get situations, especially in a live class, where a model might be turned, let's say, for example, like this, and you can just see a hand coming out of their chest like this. Well, it's going to probably look like the alien coming out of the chest if you don't draw it right. So just leave the hand off, right? No one said you had to draw it, especially if it's not helping the drawing. Feel free to edit what's being said and to bring yourself to the drawing. That's where, you know, it feels to me at least that in the academic method, a lot of value is placed on being able to accurately reproduce the thing that's in front of you to a fault almost. I just don't personally see the appeal in that as an idea. Yeah, I never did quite understand it. But you know, there's a lot of people that like that kind of drawing, so. But in my mind, that will develop, you might develop good skills as a technician, as a craftsperson. But are you really, and you might create great skill with a pencil in one respect, of rendering or whatever it might be. But I think that you're missing a huge part of what this can be. Maybe that's an overgeneralization, but you know. Anyway. Yeah, Sarkala, be patient with yourself. Absolutely. No, I get it, Volvo. It's very dramatic, but I do think, in the interest of, you know, us having a conversation, that we just need to be clear on what everyone is saying. Now, what do I want to do with this arm now that I made that big statement about changing it? Do I want to change it, or do I want to leave it? Let's see. And to your point about being patient, I think patience is actually half the key. It's patience and not quitting when it starts to get difficult. Because, you know, I know that a lot of people that start out learning to draw, you can, especially with the right guidance, you can make fairly quick progress in the early stages, and that feels great, and so you keep going, and you're inspired to keep going. The real test is when you hit your first wall, where you don't feel like you're making progress. And I would say, and not just for drawing, I would say, you know, even people that pick up a guitar, for example, I would say 90% of people quit when they hit that first wall of things slowing down. But you know what? When things slow down like that, that's a really important part of the process and your development as an artist. You need to plateau, I believe. I think that plateauing is really important, and plateauing, in my mind, is actually a sign of growth, and it's a sign that you're developing and that you're learning. But that's the real test, is the first plateau. How are you going to, it's going to happen. And you're going to mistake it for writer's block or drawer's block, and you're going to prescribe all kinds of names to it. But at the end of the day, what's happening is you're plateauing. And it's inevitable, it's going to happen. So that's not the crux of the issue. The issue is, how are you going to react to it? Are you going to give up? Or are you going to dig deep and start to ask the next series of questions? Honestly, so many people that get proficient at anything, it's really just because they were too stubborn to give up. luckily, because that's when the magic starts to happen, or the potential for the magic to start to happen. I hope I'm not coming across as too preachy, but I do think these are useful things to discuss. Wouldn't it be fun to be a fly on the wall, says Margot, of when Michelangelo did some of his drawings of his models? Yes, and I guarantee you he did some horrendous drawings that ended up in the fire, that never saw the light of day, or at least the light of history. As good as he was, everyone does bad drawings. Hell, I've seen some drawings which I don't think are that marvelous, to be honest. You know, just saying. We all do them, and I'm sure he would be the first to admit it. Noah says, in all caps, you said the model is a conversation with yourself. If the conversation is one-sided, meaning the model is sitting there mindlessly, do you as an artist have the ability to bring interest into the pose? Here's the thing. The model, Noah, you bring up a good point, and I don't want to be misunderstood. A good model is everything, right? You really want someone really competent to start that conversation. You don't want to start a bad conversation, right? So a good model is the world. It sets us on a path, right? So the model is not sitting there mindlessly. In my opinion, a good model is engaged and bringing you something for you to, bringing something important for you to work with, right? But absolutely, I think you should develop the ability and have the interest to bring yourself and to bring something into the pose that may not be there, or to push something, or to add to the experience. Okay? Hope that makes sense. Behold, the holy triceps, said Richard. Yeah, really. Yeah, doing good, thanks, Lulu. Just thinking mainly the conversation that he would have. Well, yeah, you know, look, it would be fascinating to get into the mind of these people and understand what their thought process was. But you know, honestly, I have my suspicions that it wasn't so very different to the conversations that we have here, at least on some level. I hope that makes, yeah, I think that makes sense. This is it's very philosophical. At the risk of, you know, sounding, what's the word? Trite, maybe? But what we're trying to do is, and I know that this can sound maybe even condescending, what we're trying to do is we're trying to learn how to see on a different level, see on a deeper level, right? Develop, fine-tune the way that we look at things. And I don't think that that's so very different from then as it is now. If that makes sense. I tell you, when you get sleep-deprived, Richard, it all gets a bit weird. Yeah, right. Okay, so I changed the left arm. Look, and I think what was on the reference could have worked, Margot. Honestly, I think you know, we could have drawn it that way, but you know, in the interest of illustrating a point, right? And I think that this works too. Maybe this gives it a slightly nicer flow. I don't know. It's kind of subjective, isn't it? Okay, so I guess I've got to ask myself, what else do I want to say here? We're at 20 minutes, spent most of that time ranting. Do I want to keep going with this? Maybe just for a minute, and then we'll move on. Actually got a nice, there's a nice opportunity with the shadows here. Really look at the way that this tricep comes across here, or trapezius, sorry, not tricep, and comes down this way. You can really get a sense of it right there, right? And then the muscles of the scapula. Okay, I think I'm going to call it. And that one anyway. Occipital ridge. Just get a sense of where that is there. Okay, let's move on. When I plateau in figures, I swap into portraiture, so I can be horrible again and feel like I'm getting better, just long enough for me to figure drawing to atrophy into dissatisfying. Look, I think that there's something to be said for that too, which is sometimes burnout is a genuine thing, right? Like burnout is real, and definitely switch gears. Like don't just grind yourself into a hole. Switch gears, you know, like mix things up. Nothing wrong with jumping over to portraiture for a while to clear your head, and sometimes it helps, you know, just kind of you get the equivalent of like snowblind sometimes with your work. You know, you can't figure out what's right and what's wrong, but also I think that that's where a teacher is useful. Sometimes a teacher can help you problem solve. Good, I'm glad, Noah. Hi, Sarah says, drawing about a year ago, but my drawing is still the same. What must I do? Honestly, Sarah, without seeing your work, it would be very difficult for me to say. I don't know where you're getting stuck in your development, and that's, you know, that's something you'd need to assess. Draw animals, yeah, animal drawing's great. It's a great, great supplement. All right, we've got a really complex pose coming up. Let's do it. We're probably going to go, you know, this is probably going to be a 20, isn't it? Let's talk about, though, how we can look at this and problem solve, because we've got foreshortening here. And as you know, how's the tea today? Tea's always good, thanks. Excuse me. As you know, we want to stack volumes here. I'm going to work on the one furthest away from us, which is the largest form of the body, which is the upper torso. Let's just think in terms of boxes for a minute here. So we got that going on there. We've got a chest, his chest line is about here. Obviously we're dealing with foreshortening. This is coming this way. So I'm just thinking, what does this mass look like? So we got kind of upper torso, lower torso here. I'm just trying to think of it in these terms. Let's find a center line. Because of the foreshortening, arch of the rib cage starts very high. It's starting about here, coming down this way. So the rib cage is sitting in here. Navel's going to be about here. You found the reference, T2, okay, good. Curious, what do you do with the drawings after the live streams? There must be thousands of them. There is literally thousands of them, Camille. Or there's over 1,000 at least. I did the maths. I think I did over 1,000 drawings in the streams last year. What do I do with them? I have a huge pile of them there, which I'm terrified to work through. The idea is going to be that I'm going to, some of the better ones, I make them available if anyone wants to buy them, and a lot end up in the fire, although not enough, some could argue. But I keep most of them. Actually, so arch of the rib cage is there. If I come across horizontally, I know that my knee is actually up here. And then this leg is coming back this way. So, can you explain how to make a sitting pose? Sarah asks, how can I join your course? Well, all you need to do, Sarah, is you just need to, if you're on a laptop or a PC, you hit the join button below the video, and then you can go to the community chat and you'll see a link to the reference and you can draw along. So can you explain how to make a sitting pose? I don't think we have a sitting pose today, I'm afraid, Atitya. You make a sitting pose the same way that you make any other pose. Now here's the thing. Seated poses can be tricky because they tend to be quiet poses. But it's the same process, ultimately. Okay, so I'm just kind of blocking things out. So we know that the oblique is sitting here. That's the thing, Aditya. My process doesn't really change that much. How it changes is this. When a pose is, say, standing and there's long lines of action, I'll tend to focus on gesture first. When poses are more like this, where they're heavily foreshortened, I tend to stack and think construction first. If that makes sense. I've kind of got the perspective a little bit wrong on this. So the question I have to ask myself now is, do I want to fix it? Where are we at? Oh, I never started the timer. No one told me. You're all too focused on drawing. Oh, there you go, 2K, thank you. Tiredness be damned. I'm practicing studying perspective from Scott Robinson and Marcus Mathieu, since I need to better understand the aspects to apply to drawing things from angles. Yeah, there you go. Well, Scott and Marco, they know a thing or two. You're in good hands there. You really found the tutorials helpful. Thank you very much, Jazz. Glad to hear it. All right. So yeah, do I want to fix this? It's a huge fix. Well, no, maybe sorry, I'm thinking out loud here. I have a decision to make. Do I want to fix it? Maybe I pull this up. Oh, it means pulling everything up. Yikes. But my perspective is so way off. Sorry guys, I'm just thinking. I almost want to start this over. It's way more foreshortening than I initially bargained on. Oh well, you get to see me problem solve in real time, I'm afraid. I think I can fix it to here. Well, this is going to be a mess. See, shouldn't have done this drawing. And this is about here. It's way closer. I'm starting over on this one. This is unsalvageable. Sorry. There we go. Into the fire. All right, I'm gonna start over. I'll leave the timer. Let's just go. All right, I'm just gonna focus for a minute while I get down these first ideas, because otherwise I'm gonna just be in trouble again. And even now, all right, I'll just shut up. See, sometimes when you're trying to talk and draw, it ends badly. So easy to underestimate the foreshortening, which is exactly what I just did. Okay. Is it wrong to use references, or are they helpful? Says Jazz. Oh, I think they're a critical part of development. I do think if you're serious about your craft, you want to get in front of a live model too, for sure. But if the only time we could practice is when we're with a live model, we're missing a lot of opportunities to practice and to develop our craft. And that's where reference is really useful. And not everyone has access to a live model, That's another reality. Geography or just social reasons you can't get in front of a live model. And that's where reference is absolutely critical. God, this is such a crazy foreshortened pose. Really setting myself up to fail here. Anyway, that's fine. We'll get through it. So the pectoral is sitting across the form here, coming down here, and then kind of punching up across and then around to the humerus there. Thanks, Jay. I appreciate you working through the difficult pose. I'm trying. The leg is like 4 times the surface area of the torso. Exactly, Lulu. You hit the nail on the head, and that is what can so easily trip me up anyway. Yeah. Very easy to misjudge these things. And there's still no guarantee I'm going to get it right. Let's be clear. But we'll be closer than we were the first time. But yeah, this is... What was I thinking picking this pose? Yeah, if I wasn't drawing along, you could say, oh, he's just torturing us, but at least you can argue I'm torturing myself too. So... Oh, this is absolutely disastrous. Worst drawing I've done in a long time. This is where I'm gonna blame my fatigue. This is where my tiredness is showing. Just bad decision making. Definitely no time for me to be making any important decisions. Luckily, this is just a drawing that will very likely be a fire candidate, so, you know, we'll all forget about it soon enough. But good practice. Let's keep going. Yikes. Constantine says, I recently found something called bark plates. Kind of confused about them. Okay, so that's the academic system that we were talking about, where you're to, you know, the copying thing we were talking about. Look, at least for me, I have those same things, and I just don't have the patience for that technique and that process. That's the, you know, spend 2 weeks copying something, making grids, all of that. Okay, this is just need this to be over. Yikes. This is just going from bad to worse. Alright. I'm going to abandon this fairly soon, I think. I would ask you all to forget this ever happened. This makes me feel so much better about my feelings when I'm presented with a pose like this at live drawing. Yeah. It's often I enjoy the challenge that comes with it. But I think sometimes, you can get in your own head and you can just decide something's not working, and it can be very hard to recalibrate. All right, I think I really should just quit while I'm behind. There's nothing working here. Oh well, it happens. Let's move on. It's enough torture. And it's terrible, terrible execution. Oh well. Let's move on. I tend to recalibrate better if I've had a full night's sleep. Yeah, it's not so much I didn't sleep, I was just up super early. Super early. And I'm feeling it now. Okay, next pose. Lovely sacrum here. And we are looking down on our subject, so we do want to try and be mindful. Once again, a little bit of perspective here, a little bit of foreshortening. This leg going away from us here. Make this a little bit shorter. Somewhere in there. Why did you ruin it? Says Jazz. Well, Jazz, it was ruined from the beginning, so I didn't ruin it. I saved it. The drawing was already ruined. I didn't ruin anything. I ruined it over 20 minutes of drawing. No great loss, trust me. I do have some interesting perspective on this arm. Now he's holding something behind where we can't see here, and it's sticking up here. I'm just going to leave it off. I don't think it's adding anything, and you know, it's just going to add confusion if anything. Now I can't really see the trapezius so clearly, but I know that they're there. I want to mark them in here. We have this leg. And he's sitting on a box, which I do think we need to kind of put in, because it helps seat our perspective. So now we get the sense that we're looking down at him. Right. Yeah, something like that. These poses either have a wacky lens or they're really close up. The guy's just huge, I suppose. Wacky lens. Definitely, Lulu. There's no doubt we're getting lens distortion. Not that that's any excuse, but you know, we are getting lens distortion for sure. Okay, I'm going to start to tie down here. Really interesting the way that this tricep is, yeah, the lens distortion. We want to try and capture it though, because it's kind of fun. That'll do us for now. Okay, so this is here. Trapezius. Sitting in there. Let's find the trapezius, the tricep on this side. When I start with a foreshortened pose, do I begin with the cranium or the rib cage, upper torso with segmented portions of the body? Any tips? My advice would be always start with the largest forms of the body first, which are typically even like perspective aside, the rib cage, the upper and the lower torso basically. The largest forms are going to tell you the most. You know, to take that to an extreme, you'd probably end up in a pretty bad way if you started a drawing at the fingertip, right? And tried to draw out from that. That's kind of the idea of the analogy, right? So we got this very foreshortened leg here. And then we can see the calf down here. gluteus medius, coming up this way. Kind of get a hint of the oblique in there, and then the latissimus. Somewhere in there. And the edge of this box is here. Okay. Constantine says, I remember downloading a VR drawing app for Steam PC that I look at a 3D model, statues, animals, humans. It's challenging trying to stand or sit while drawing out the entire form. Drawing in VR, there's a whole nother thing. I don't know, I find drawing hard enough in real life. I don't know if I need to bring it into the VR world to punish me some more. But this sounds like a bit of fun. Maybe that's the future of art classes in VR. Probably. $13. We'll go a couple more minutes here, huh? Yes, I agree, Lulu, about the trapezius comet. Very much. Do you always have to wear those weird goggles when you do VR? I just can't stand the idea of that, says Margot. Yeah, pretty much, Margot, as far as I understand it. The goggles, at least for right now, are part and parcel of the experience. They kind of make the experience, from what I understand. For now. I'm sure they will transcend the goggle at some point. All of that technology is really still in its infancy, you know. It's going to be fascinating to see how things develop. And evolve in time. Not crazy about this area in general. Don't really feel like it's kind of awkward in the reference too, but don't feel like I did it any favors. It's the day that's in it. I guess I just can't draw today, which is fine. Happens. Where are we at? 6:30 already. An hour and a half. Okay. How many poses do we have to go? That's the question. Still got 2 more after this. Ugh. 2 more challenges. All right, I think they're going to be 10s. We'll wrap this one up as well, I think pretty much now, because yeah, it's just none of it. I'm not feeling it, if you know what I mean. Just, as I promised I wouldn't at the beginning of the session, I feel like I'm kind of going through the motions. But we're here now. Yeah, not my finest hour. All right. Let's move on. Drawings look okay to me. Maybe you're just really critical today. Lulu, I'll tell you what it is. For me, you may have read my quote about this on my website. For me, the journey is as important as the end result. And I know it sounds cliche, but I do view the end result almost as a byproduct of a journey. And for me, if the journey isn't to my satisfaction, then the drawing is kind of irrelevant. It's like meditating, right? Like if you don't enjoy the art of meditation, well, the wellness that you experience at the end feels shortchanged, if that makes sense. No, that's not even a good analogy. If I don't feel like I've enjoyed the process or had a satisfying process to get something, it doesn't really matter to me what the end result looks like. If it feels like a fight, you know? If that makes sense? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. All right. I've gone through pencils today too. Good Lord. All right. Oof. Nope. I'm gonna just take a moment to sharpen a pencil, guys and girls. Just bear with me a second. Talk among yourselves. I do not enjoy meditating, that's the point though, that's how it works. I don't enjoy meditating either. For me, I would much rather try and achieve flow state doing an act like drawing or playing a musical instrument. Because to me, like, I don't know like ultimately what the goal of meditation is, but if flow state is the goal, I find I need to be doing something. To sit and not do anything, I'm just too impatient. I'm too restless. But I'm sure someone who's into meditation would just say, yeah, but you're doing it wrong. Maybe. Emmy says, maybe we could do a 10-minute arm. You can do a 10-minute arm. Emmy, the problem is we don't really, especially with this pose, or either of these poses, I don't think the arms are really warrant, or my focus, I can't focus on one arm for 10 minutes the way I'm drawing right now. Sorry. I'll keep it in mind though, all right? Meditation is what lets my brain rest. Flow state is after, because I'm rested enough to have my mind settle on the task. Fair enough, Lulu. Fair enough. What's the best advice you could give to developing anatomy and perspective? It's a huge question, Jazz. We've kind of been discussing it in one form or another already today, I think. Draw. Repetition. Obviously, each one of those requires a separate conversation to some degree or another. I don't have the mental bandwidth to get into it again today, Jazz, to be honest. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm not drawing well, and I'm not really, I'm tired. I'm not in a good place to be giving anyone any advice, if I'm honest. But I would say, please ask that question again in another stream when I'm re-energized. Let's do 10. And, you know, let's get through today. Sorry. Not really the encouraging thing that you probably want to hear. I'm just being realistic. We all have days, right? We've got some mad perspective on this leg. Scapula sitting about here, coming this way, so I'm coming forward. Latissimus sitting in here. Deltoid. Got another one of those super foreshortened forearms. We'll keep this one in the spirit of what's actually happening. Deltoid coming up this way. Restlessness is the point of meditation. You settle your mind as you meditate. You wouldn't need meditation if you were not restless. Fair point. Fair point, Lily. I just don't... Somehow I just don't feel like I connect with it as an idea. That's okay. You got this. Nice. We all have days, exactly. Yeah, I'm looking forward to an epic night's sleep. The hot shower was done. The epic night's sleep needs to happen. It's all good. Such a crazy series of shapes with this leg. We'll get into it in a second. Here we go. Let's find some ideas here. Tensor fasciae latae, gluteus medius sitting in there, gluteus maximus poking out here, and then into the gluteus maximus there. Okay. Yeah. Mad. He's got too many muscles. Ah. Well, if this is your first time coming to the stream, I appreciate you won't be back. That's okay. I get it. Wrist. Elbow. His hand is going up this way. We do have this other leg we need to consider. It's coming out this way and back. This way. And this other lower part of the leg. Sitting in here. at 950. Yikes. Oh well. Yikes. Okay. He is holding. Maybe it is worth just dealing with a little bit of this. He is holding this big axe coming across the form this way. Not that I'm going to draw it, but I think that just to get the sense that he's holding a stick here is probably not the worst thing in the world. All right, 1150. That's bigger than my aspirations, Lulu. You do have a way with words. Yeah. They are something. Come on, last pose. Oof. We can do this. Today's poses are killing. They're killing me, Camille. I know what messes with me. The photo is cropped, so I don't know the level of the lens and can't compute things. Lulu, I don't doubt you've got a point there, although when I crop these, I try to be really mindful that I'm not messing with the overall kind of visual cues, let's say. There's a chance that on the wider version that it was still a problematic. I don't honestly remember, but yeah, it's probably a part of it. There's another guy's whose videos I watched that says trapezes, and I tick every time. All right, it's close enough. All right, let's do the last pose. We can do this, guys. We can get through this. You know, you can get through these poses. You're doing all right. Let's do it. Last one. 10 minutes. Come on, we just need one to go our way here. Once again, very foreshortened upper arm here, and this arm, forearm coming down this way, wrist sitting about here. Pectoral muscle sitting in there. It is an odd pose, you know, if you can't see the reference. Holding a stick and going out, something like that. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, you know, Lulu, you bring up a good point. In the interest of getting things so that they're as large as possible on the reference page on a display, I end up cropping the source reference sometimes quite a bit. And I think it's a valuable trade-off, honestly. I think that you're kind of alluding to that point there. Because for a lot of people working on smaller browsers, like if you're like Margot and you're working like on an iPad, for example, if I left all the real estate around the edge of our model, our subject, you'd be working with really tiny, or sometimes with what would be really tiny reference. So I do crop when I'm putting the poses together. But there is always a chance that in doing that, I'm losing a visual cue for perspective. But as I said, I do try to be mindful of that, and you know, not try and make things. Certainly, don't try and make things more difficult for people. quite a lot of foreshortening on this left arm. Excuse me. Yeah. We never talked about calf muscles. Sorry. Next time, maybe. Today all kind of got mentally derailed, I think. Anyway, it's all good. Excuse me. Oh, we're at 10 minutes. Not a moment too soon. All right. This is a funny pose. Yeah, it is a funny pose, and it's not helped by the fact that you can't see the reference. It makes a bit more sense if you can. Aditya, thank you for the kind words. Very nice of you. Appreciate it. Yeah, even on my 24-inch monitor, it's sometimes difficult to draw since I zoom in, I miss proportions. Yeah, I try not to zoom in, Lulu, when I'm working on these live sessions, or I don't zoom in. It's better to try and keep the full form in front of you if you can. This has been a great session, Richard. Tina, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your process. It's oddly encouraging that you have off days too. Oh, I do have off days, Tina, and you saw one in full display. But you know, that is, you know, that is part of the process, isn't it? Like we were talking about earlier, it's like, it's not about whether you're going to hit a plateau. It's how are you going to react to it. Now, I'm sure some of you would argue I didn't react to it too well today. Because I bitched and moaned most of the session. But yes, I appreciate the sentiment. Yeah, but that's a wrap for today. You can't actually see the whole form, can you? There we go. Guys, thanks for hanging in there. If for any of you that are still here, we will be. Today's Monday? Okay, good Lord. Yeah, we will be back on Thursday, potentially sooner. Let's see how things go. For those of you who have just watched along, if you want to draw along, you know, consider becoming a member. As the old cliched saying goes, it's roughly the price of a cup of coffee for a month's worth of access to the reference. And we get to hang out a couple of times a week and draw. And it's a bit of fun. So, guys, thank you so much. I will be back, as I said, on Thursday at the same time. Let's see, might do a pop-up, as the kids say, between now and then. Yeah, keep drawing. Apologies for the energy level today. It happens. Luckily, it doesn't happen too often, right? Okay. I should just get out of here. Look, I'm just rambling. Look after yourselves. Dare I ask, hit the like button on your way out the door, will you? All right, guys, out. Cheers. Bye.